He's the great Ted Robinson, who joins the show here in Salt Lake. Ted, how are you, man?
Hey, Spence. Well, thank you. Thanks for the nice plug on the pod. And hey, it's a big week. I'm heading in tomorrow night for basketball, and then you're right back here in my backyard Friday for football. So great week for the Utes.
And we'll start there, of course. Really excited around here in Salt Lake. That's my alma mater. Been covering the team for a long time. And, Ted, I think it's Kyle's best team. I think they're really, really good. Would you agree that this is Kyle Whittingham's best football team?
Certainly the best one I've seen, without question. I didn't see the 04 team, although I became friendly with Alex Smith through his years in San Francisco, and I've heard him talk about it. But I didn't see that firsthand. This is clearly the best team, and it's rooted in offense. I mean, that to me is the difference. And I know the defense and Morgan Scalley as the coordinator are getting a lot of deserved love. But the difference to me is what Andy Ludwig has done. And I said it on our pod yesterday. I think he's the most unheralded coach in the conference this year because for the first time since they've been in the Pac, the Utes have a top. I mean, look at all the statistical measures. Spence, they're a top-level offense this year. Couple that with a stifling defense, and you have a team that's worthy of the CFP.
Now, they're going to see Oregon on Friday night, Ted, and I actually think the way people are talking about Oregon right now is a little bit unfair. It's college football, and so upsets happen. They lose to ASU, and they don't look great against Oregon State, but they're still a really good football team, Ted. So how do you think this matchup will go on Friday night? What's your take on this game?
Yeah, it's funny. I think – and we're sitting here, I'm looking outside, and we're actually in a dry day right now, but we've had a week where it started over the weekend where our seasons changed here in Northern California. And we had a remarkably dry November, warm November, up until the day before Thanksgiving. And now it's gone wet and cooler. The Notre Dame-Stanford game Saturday was weather affected. And if it is this way Friday night, my question would be, does it become similar to the game the Utes played last year against Washington? Does it become a 10-3 game? And that, to me, heavily favors the Utes. And I think Oregon's better play is to let Justin Herbert be the guy that the NFL people are drooling about and open up your run game a little bit more and allow this to be, or try to make this a game where the score's in the 20s. And I think that's Oregon's better shot. I think the lower scoring the game, that's a pretty simplistic view I get, but that favors the Utes. And if the weather is colder and wetter as it right now is forecast to be, that to me plays more to Utah's strength.
How would you characterize the conference as a whole, Ted? Because I like it because I enjoy the zaniness. It's better for my business. It's better for the crazy results make for great storylines. But a lot of people think because the conference might be a little bit down as far as the way they describe it, it could come back to haunt Utah down the stretch. How would you characterize the Pac-12 as a whole this year?
Yeah, that's the perception fight, Spence, that everybody from Boulder West fights in this conference. And I don't think it's down at all. In fact, I think it's been the better year this year than, let's say, 2018 for the conference. But to me, the way the season played out football was 2-10. Two teams separated themselves, and that's the Utes and Oregon. And the other 10, to me, were not separated nearly as much as you see in any other conference. 3 through 12 were closer than you would absolutely in the SEC or the Big Ten, which is a farce with Maryland and Rutgers. I mean, that's farcical that those teams are in a power conference. So that is where the conference in the Pac, to me, ended up. The difference for the two was defense, clearly. Those two teams, Utah and Oregon, played defense at a different level than everyone else. Washington had been doing that, but they slipped. They lost a ton of talent last year, and they had a little slip this year. Still finished with a winning record. I'm trying to go up. Cal's defense is at a very good level. Their offense needs to catch up to it. And the bottom part of the teams, to me, the bottom tier is Arizona, Washington State, and Colorado, because their defense is and Washington State's defense really took a nosedive this year. They just didn't play very well at all. But those schools need to ramp up their defense. In the case of the Cougs, it's been an oft-stated problem. But if you want to play at the top, and to me, the Utes and the Ducks this year are proving that you have to play defense.
What do you make of the news of Chris Peterson unexpectedly stepping down at UW?
Stunned by the timing. People who've known him, Spence, I think, are not surprised at the outcome. They're surprised at the timing. Maybe another 2-3 years from now, that would have been a more likely scenario than today. That's the only thing. We were in Washington, our crew, twice early in the season, but we did not see the Huskies as the year went along in conference play. So I don't have a firsthand take on if things were wearing down Chris Peterson, but they clearly were. The thing that I respect most about Chris Peterson in this regard, Spence, is that he is not a better deal guy. He's not doing this to look for the better deal. There's a guy sitting, he coached the Utes at one point, and he's sitting on a desk right now for a network, and he's clearly a better deal coach. And I think he relishes that being mentioned in every, prospective job. Well, that's not who Chris Peterson is. So I'm not saying he's never going to coach again. I have no idea. But I think that there's a sincere need for him at this point to stop. Look, this is a guy that stayed at Boise for a long time, and I can tell you, I know some schools that made significant overtures to him during his run at Boise, and he had a lot of reasons that he wanted to stay put. And he finally, when the time was right, UW called. He saw it as a great job, and he goes there. I have no reason to believe that he's looking at any sort of a better deal scenario now.
Two-part question for you, Ted, about the playoff rankings. The first one is simple. Do you think Utah is going to be at 5 tonight, or a lot of people believe Oklahoma might jump them? And the second part is just a question about the overall system. Do you like the 4 teams? Would you like to see expansion? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, where the Utes are tonight, I was disturbed. I've been disturbed a lot about this, Spence. I was disturbed yesterday because I looked up at a screen and I saw ESPN, and I have no idea how they come up with these. To me, it's idiocy. These playoff predictor percentages, and Utah's ranked ahead of Oklahoma in the CFP last week's poll, but Utah's playoff likelihood percentage is single digits, and Oklahoma's like 38%. So I don't know where they come up with this. But of course, the problem becomes ESPN owns the CFP. They own it. It's their property. And when you see that kind of number and you follow through with Alabama having beaten the best Alabama win this year is over a Texas A&M team that's mediocre, right? 7-5. And they were ranked ahead of the Utes. They have been until tonight, right? So that's when you start wondering, is television running this thing? How much impact do they have? And of course, nobody wants to touch that question on the inside. I get that. But these are the sort of things that you can't help but think. So now to your second part, Spence, no, I don't like the system the way it is. I don't like it. I'm a big proponent of a playoff. I think you need to have a playoff, but the 4 is not right. And I hope that if Georgia beats LSU in the SEC championship, if that happens, I do think then you will have 2 SEC teams in, and both the Pac-12 champion and the Big 12 champion will be out, if that is the case. And if that's the case, then I hope the Pac-12 and the Big 12 stand up together and say, this is it, we're done. Change it or we're out. You can't have 2 of the 5 Power 5 conferences with 1 loss championship teams not get in and tell me this is a legitimate system.
Ted, last thing before I set you loose, and it's a selfish question because I have been listening to you for years and years and years, do a number of different sports on a number of different platforms, and I'm just curious, what is your favorite call? Okay, not game, but your favorite moment in your career, Ted, is what?
Oh wow. Okay, I'll give you 2. Three quick ones. The favorite event, without question, Federer Nadal Wimbledon 2008 final. That was special. It was a once-in-a-lifetime moment. The 2 favorite calls, Bryce Drew, Valparaiso, buzzer beater to beat Ole Miss, 1998 NCAA championship, and then the U.S. baseball team winning the gold medal in the 2000 Olympics by beating Cuba in the gold medal game. Ben Sheets, who hadn't been a major leaguer yet but had a great career, pitched a shutout, and the U.S. team was a bunch of AAA guys, sort of wannabes that no one gave a chance to. And to watch them beat Cuba when Cuba was still Cuba to win a gold medal, that was special also.
Well, look, I've long been a fan. You probably caught that by now, and I listen to every podcast you do with Yogi, and you do a phenomenal job. You've always been a favorite of mine, so I appreciate the time today. Safe travels, and Ted, we'll chat again soon. Okay?
Well, Spence, you're way too kind for those words. I'm not worthy of them, but thank you for offering. And listen, I'm excited coming in for hoops tomorrow night. And it's great coming to Salt Lake City because Utes fans love the school, and that we need that in the Pac-12.
No doubt, no doubt. Thanks, Ted. Be well, man.
Thanks, Spence.